across the interwebs and whatnot. I'm Nate Tudis, for those of you who don't know me, and I am joined here by my friend, and really someone I greatly admire when it comes to the marketing space, Grant Wise. Grant Wise and I have had the chance to get to know each other through a mastermind that we're in, and I'm always impressed anytime I get the chance to talk to Grant. So what's up, Grant? How's it going?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too, because like I had shared yesterday, if anybody caught the live that I did, I'm going to share kind of the framework that I typically use to think about business, the 4 A's of business. And then we're going to get into it with Grant as far as how we can apply what he's been up to, which one could easily say is the new way of marketing altogether, and how that can actually help you. So when we think about the 4 A's of business, it's essentially attract, acquire, ascend, and then automate. So we have to attract people to our offers. We have to acquire their information and then acquire a purchase. We have to ascend them, both immediate ascension by increasing our average cart value, and then increasing lifetime value, or the long-term value of our clients and whatnot. And then if we can automate that and we can shorten the sales cycle, we can move more people through the pipeline faster. And Grant's actually an expert in all of those, but the area that we're going to be focusing on today is that first A, that attraction component, because Grant has developed something that is truly revolutionary in the field of marketing. So Grant, I'll kind of let you explain to everybody what exactly that is.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks again for having me on here. I know this is like your inaugural first like stream with a guest, so I appreciate it. I am the founder of comarketing.com, and so co-marketing is a strategy that I've really become an expert in. And I think a lot of people are like, okay, cool, but like, what is marketing? And so I always like to pre-frame this like, well, marketing is messaging, and you've got to put the right message in front of the right people at the right time. Very basic old world marketing principle, right? So if marketing is messaging, then co-marketing is when somebody else puts the right message in front of the right person at the right time. And so a lot of times what I'm spending our energy doing is developing partnerships with people that can put my message, i.e. like we're sitting here doing a Facebook Live. This is co-marketing, right? I'm partnering with somebody that can help put my message in front of the right person at the right time. The big thing that I do that is, I think, different than everybody else is I pay people for results. And obviously I'm not paying you for this live stream. I'm just setting the tone for the conversation. It's what I call like performance-based partnerships. I love doing partnerships with people. Maybe they'll send an email for me. Maybe they'll do a post for me on Facebook. Maybe they will do something else. And what I want to do is I want to pay them to get me the result that I need so that I can grow my business. So if I need impressions, if I need clicks, if I need leads, if I need appointments, like whatever the result it is that I need to sell my thing, that's what I want to incentivize people to get me. That's most comparable to what people would think of like affiliate marketing, which is typically when it's like, hey, refer me business and I'll pay you after I close a deal. And what I've always kind of said is like with affiliate marketing, you get paid after the person that you helped wins. With co-marketing, you get paid to help them win. And I've just found that it totally changes the dynamic of the relationship, because people have the trust I need. People have the leads I need. People have the sales that I need, but they don't have the incentive to go out there and push for me. Because if I'm going to post about you, or if I'm going to send an email for you, and then maybe in like 1, 2, 3 months, I'm going to get paid, probably not going to do that. But if I can just like post about you and then I made $10 or $50 or $100, all of a sudden, I've got that immediate gratification. And now I'm like hooked. I want to post about you more. I want to send more emails for him, because it's like, oh, I can make money doing this. And so it's proving to be one of the most effective strategies I've ever used. I've spent millions of dollars through social advertising channels. I've generated millions of dollars through affiliates. This is the most profitable strategy that I've ever used. And it's one that I have really spent a lot of time, attention, and energy on over the last couple of years, helping a lot of different niches: real estate, home services, coaching, consulting, working with e-commerce products. And I think I agree with you. I believe it is the future of marketing for sure.
Yeah. So And thank you for sharing that and going into what co-marketing is, because I think, that's something that it's a new term out there, right? So the first thing
Yep.
is we obviously have to define it. And then secondly, it's taking it and really looking at how it's different than all the other options that are actually out there right now, right? So help me understand a little bit, if people are used to doing some of the things that you just mentioned, paid advertising, affiliate marketing, things like that. This is obviously, like, I would compare it to, it's kind of like affiliate marketing, but paying on that front end and that front end result as opposed to paying on the back end. So with that in mind, how does that really help if we're looking at like paid advertising and things like that, how does that help, right? In those two contexts from that perspective.
What I've always said is that co-marketing is kind of like if Facebook ads and affiliate marketing got together and had a baby. Like you can get the likes, or I'm sorry, the clicks, the leads, the appointments that you need, but instead of paying platforms to get those things for you, you're paying people. I I grew my business on Facebook ads, starting 10 years ago. Like I crushed with Facebook ads, but there came a point where just for some reason the ad stopped working and it didn't seem like anything that I did would make a difference. And it got to where it was like, it felt kind of like I was gambling. Like I had to do a launch or a challenge. It's like, okay, I'm going to go spend all this money on ads. And it's like shaking to hit go on the advertising campaigns because you never know what's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in that like frustration of this is not working anymore, I've got to pivot and find something else, that I called a few of my friends and just said, hey, would you send an email for me? Would you make a post for me? Would you do something so that way I can get leads for this webinar I'm going to host? And I ended up getting a 370% return on average with the three friends that I paid. And then, walk back to just a couple of weeks ago, I did a challenge, same strategy. I called my friends to promote me instead of going and running any social media campaigns whatsoever. Ended up generating a 1,290% return on what I had spent. And for me, it's like, okay, I'm getting the performance that I need. I'm getting the clicks, I'm getting the leads, I'm getting the appointments that I need. I'm just no longer trying to get them through people. I'll let people make the social media post. I'll let people send the email. I'll let people do the thing. I'm going to get the results I need from people. And for me, it's the trust transference. I don't really have like cold leads anymore. Whereas Facebook, you're exposing your advertising campaigns to cold audiences.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know you. They don't like you. They don't trust you, right? So when somebody else markets me, normally there's that trust transference. They've already built a relationship with their audience. And so it just totally changes the dynamic. The performance has been drastically different. And I think that's the big reason why is because the trust is drastically different. If Nate says this guy knows what he's talking about, the people that actually like you are probably I'm going to have a shot, versus if it's a disruptive ad campaign on social, it's a totally different ballgame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so typically from a social perspective, you have to do some type of disruptive based marketing, right? So to your point, you're trying to get in front of the audience. They're completely cold, right? And you're trying to grab their attention and then build that relationship pretty much from scratch. So,
yeah.
What you're saying is basically it's almost like a hybrid referral base, right? Because they're doing it more from a reach out campaign and things like that. So if someone wanted to get started with something like co-marketing, like where's kind of the starting point? How do you figure out who you want to partner with? Because obviously you mentioned you had in that first one, you had 3 friends, right? That did those outreaches for you. So I'm assuming they had to have some form of a list that they actually reached out to and whatnot. So they have to have some traction themselves. But where do you kind of want us to get started from that perspective?
I have a framework that I've used for a very long time. And it's like, okay, what do I sell? Who do I sell it to? How do I sell it to them? What do I need to sell it to them? How do I deliver it? And, if I'm going to put on a webinar, let's say I have an info product, and I want my cost of acquisition for that webinar to be $100, meaning I spend $100 and somebody pays me $1,000. I've got to go reverse engineer the math and figure out, okay, what can I pay to get a lead to my webinar or to my sales call or to my thing? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to understand what you sell, and you want to understand the numbers behind what it is that you sell so that you know. Mm-hmm. And it's, do you need clicks? Do you need leads? Do you need appointments? And then once you have an understanding of those, it's like, okay, I can pay $5 a lead to Nate to send an email for me or to make a post for me. Then you want to go out and find the right partners. And it's finding people that already know, like, and trust you, people that are already in your community, people that maybe are already your customers. And then reaching out, hey, Nate, would you send an email for me? I've got this webinar coming up. I can pay you $5 a lead for everybody that opts in. Whether they show up to my webinar or not, I don't care. Would just love if you could send an email for me. They say yes. You shoot them the copy and paste material. You tell them when to post it or when to send the email. And so you got to know your product. You got to know your numbers. You got to know what you need in order to sell those products. Once you have that understanding, then it's just who are the 5 people that you know that would send an email for you or make a post for you. And you start small and then you go big. So first time I ever did this, I just reached out to a few people I knew and it's like, hey, can you do this? And they said yes. But as I've grown, I've built somewhat of what I would call like a flywheel, the self-sustaining growth loop. Everybody that opts in for my trainings automatically gets invited to promote them. So they're not just learning how to do co-marketing and they're not just learning how to do performance-based partnerships, they're experiencing it. Because it's like, as soon as I sign up, oh, now I can share this. And if any of my friends show up to Grant's training, I'm gonna make a few dollars a lead too. And so it's about creating that initial proof of concept within your own business. Mm-hmm. And then it's about scaling that so you can create that growth loop. Because if every new customer you bring on now instantly has an opportunity to get you more leads or clicks or appointments or whatever you've decided that you need, it creates this effect where it's like, well, one person knows 2 more and 2 people know 6 more and 6 know 15 more. And that thing just kind of takes off on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I like about that too is like, it's always more fun to do things together, right? To go in groups and do things. So if I'm joining a webinar, right, or I'm joining a challenge or a masterclass or whatever it is out there, it's very rare that I actually get paid to attend that thing, right?
Yeah.
But I could literally join someone's webinar, join someone's challenge. And if I think it makes sense for other peers of mine, right? Let's say I'm a CEO or something like that. And I see you're going to put something out there that's going to help me get more eyeballs on my business, right? Mm-hmm. And I know other CEOs or other business owners that could use that same thing. It's very easy for me at that point to be like, cool, I've now got the link. I'm going to send that to a few of my friends that I think would benefit from the same session that I'm going to attend, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get them involved. And then to your point, it kind of creates that flywheel where 1 becomes 3, 3 becomes 100%. 9, 9 becomes, 27 and so on and so forth, right?
100%.
So, yeah. So I think that just right there in and of itself is an amazing way to do it. But then when you bring it back to that versus like paid advertising, right? I think it also makes it a lot easier to actually get into the market and start creating traffic to some offers and things like that.
Yeah, it's a little bit safer. And I know that's what everybody, especially people that are newer and starting out, like you really do feel like you're taking a risk. I was just talking to somebody last week, John, he's also in the Edge. And he's like, yeah, I paid $1,200 on my Facebook ads and I got like 100 leads, but it was from foreign countries. Like it wasn't, and it's like, I ran Facebook ads for a very long time, know how to do it very proficiently, but it definitely can feel like a risk, can feel like you're gambling money away. And so it's a safer entry point. Everybody I know that I've interacted with in this like whole co-marketing thing, they all know a few people that would help them, that would want to promote them, that would want to share something. And that's what our community is getting a lot of, is a lot of yeses. Like even you, like you told me yesterday, like you've already started reaching out to people and you've got people like, yeah, anything that I can do, this is awesome. And so everybody has got that like initial 2, 3, 4 people that can help. And then every new customer you get is a new member of your community that probably wants to help you grow, assuming that you create a good experience for them. And so it creates a much safer entry point. There's a lot more control, I guess you could say, because you're controlling how much you're spending per lead. You're controlling your budget. You're controlling all who's sharing it. You're controlling what audience that's going to, because you know what audience your friends have. And so it definitely creates a better entry point, and then gives you the lift that you need, and is proven for me to be one of the best. Like I said, it's one of the best strategies I've ever used. I'm growing co-marketing by doing co-marketing. So I practice what I preach every day. I'm building new partnerships every day, buying leads and appointments every day. Like, I'm doing all of these things every single day to grow the business. And so I have a lot of experience from that, but I've also got a lot of experience from the advertising strategies I've used, because I've helped sell billions of dollars of real estate all over the world. And I've built numerous 7-figure companies through advertising. So I I don't not know what I'm talking about when it comes to running successful campaigns. I've
Yeah.
lost a lot of money on advertising, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's just the name of the game. So far, I've yet to lose $1 on co-marketing, and that's for me to be able to pivot to a strategy that for the last 2 years has really helped kind of transform my life and business. That's amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of the name of the game. I don't know a single person, and being connected with people that have literally spent millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in ad spend, right? I don't know a single one that can actually say, "Oh yeah, I never lost $1 in advertising."
Yeah,
It's
of
like, yeah,
course.
that's part of the learning curve,
It's part of the
and
game.
just about every campaign you're gonna lose at some point. Like it's the people who are really good at it are the people that know how to make those quick tweaks and adjustments, but no one goes into it winning like right off the bat. Like you have your base that you start with of your experience, but after that it's like it's all test and measure, right?
100%.
So that brings up an interesting question though, because like you obviously have a whole lot less risk doing co-marketing versus paid ads and whatnot.
Mhm.
But where are the risks actually in co-marketing, or have we even found those yet?
It's in the partners, right? Like I've certainly found that the people I've paid some people and I didn't get as much of a result off of their audience as maybe I did others. And so think about it like if I'm going to go run an ad, I'm going to test the ad.
Yep.
In co-marketing, it's like if I'm going to go find a partner, I'm going to test the partner. So you're testing different things. And so it all depends on the people that you're partnering with and the value of the audience they've got. You know, do they have 2 to 3 really solid connections that are going to see the value in what you do? I think it's really important when you're partnering with people to align yourself that have the audience that you know you want to get in front of. We were at the Edge a few weeks back, Park City, and Dean Graziosi was up the front of the room talking. He's like, sometimes the answer to the question is not how do I get more customers? It's who has the customers I need. And that's what I'm always advocating people do. Go make a list of the top 100 people in your space that you want to be connected to, and start building relationships with those people because they have the audience that you need. And sometimes we got to start small. We start small with a smaller audience, and by extension, a smaller. They have smaller audiences, but you build that flywheel, and it just starts to grow and grow and grow. None of what I'm saying is like, hey, this is no work required. That's not like you have to work. You have to build relationships. You got to foster connections. You got to go out there and you got to do that work. But that's probably the risk is like, okay, I'm gonna risk spending some money, assuming that this person has an audience that is interested in what I'm talking about. And sometimes that may not be the case, or sometimes you work with smaller influencers that don't have as much reach or as big of an audience, or sometimes you work with big influencers that have massive audiences but they don't actually have any influence. And so you've got to pay attention to who you're partnering with. If I'm going to go test ads, that's a potential that I could lose some money. If I'm going to go test partnerships, it's very similar. And so you want to pay attention to that. What I look at are the averages. If I had 10 partners that helped me promote a webinar last week, what was the average rate of return that I got on the total campaign versus the individual? Because maybe I only got a 1.5x return on Susan, but I got an 8x return on Joey. So then my average was roughly 5x. Am I willing to put $1 in a machine that's going to give me $5 back? The answer is yes. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep pushing, going to keep feeding content to those people that they can share to continue to help me grow my business.
Yeah. Yeah. And so because I know you've built a whole platform around making this accessible for everybody. So how does comarketing.com as a platform actually help people to accomplish those things?
We help you formalize your partnerships. I think that's probably the easiest word I have found to describe it, because we can handle all of the tracking. You can set up all of the partnerships, or we call them campaigns, but you can set up campaigns with individual partners. It makes it really easy to track the results, link clicks, leads, appointments, etc. And then we automate the payout infrastructure. So like in a traditional affiliate model, you're closing a deal and then you've got to manually account for that at the end of the month and everybody's got to get paid. We've completely automated all of that with the infrastructure that we've built. So whenever you actually get a lead, you just pay $5 and then that person gets paid $5 pretty instantly. And so we've automated the back end from a payment standpoint, and that really takes an enormous amount of work off of the person that is both paying for the result and then getting paid. And then the other thing that we do is we spend a lot of time getting people to promote. You know, if you were like going to go through affiliates, you've got to have affiliate managers, or you've got to spend your time pushing on people, getting them to actually promote. And
Mhm.
because of the way that we do this, we've set up a lot of automations. We use AI a lot to help us teach, you know, earners and promoters how to make money, how to promote, how to do these things. And then we also have a couple of things that we're rolling out with integrations with social platforms, so that if I'm going to set up an advertising campaign, essentially, I could just go ahead and write the post. I could upload the image, and then the person that's going to share it, they just have to connect their Facebook, and we'll post it to their social media for them after they approve it, of course. But
Yep.
there's a lot of work that we're doing in just leveraging AI and automation, making it easy to track, formalizing these partnerships, automating payouts. And it really does oversimplify the process so that creating these partnerships is really easy.
Yeah, and that's been my personal experience, just going through the initial setup of the platform and whatnot. I've obviously already introduced a couple of my own clients to you, because I think if you're just getting started, right, trying to build a social media following and trying to go pure organic, right, as our mentor Dean Graziosi talks about all the time, you've got kind of the apple trees and then you got the summer corn, right? The apple trees are that thing that it's going to produce long term, but it still takes a long time for it to grow before you're going to produce any apples, right? Social media, it's going to take a while for you to build that, unless you just happen to go viral and all of a sudden get a massive following, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, like the summer corn of the paid ads, it seems like a really enticing offer. But to your point, you can lose a lot of money on the front end trying to dial it in and really figure out how you're going to get it to work. So one of the things that I really like and appreciate about the co-marketing concept is it's kind of that blend of referrals and advertising, right? That you're getting that warmer network to be able to go out to and really work with. So I asked you about kind of what some of the negatives or the drawbacks would be. Is there any negative? Like I have a lot of my clients that are coaches and consultants, right? Is there any negative to them going to some of their own clients and saying, hey, you've got other people, other peers and things like that. I would love to pay you for leads to go out there and advertise, right? And share the opportunity to come and join whatever event they have, or whatever, you know, whatever it is that they're providing. Is there any negative to that, or is it pretty much like if they're willing to put that out there, like, you know, go for it?
The only negative I've experienced is not doing it. Like like the reality is like you probably already have people in your community, you probably already have customers that want to do more stuff with you. You just maybe haven't had a way to do that. And so when you go to them with an opportunity that pays them up front for the effort that they put in and incentivizes them to start sharing what they're learning through you, it really, again, I always use the word flywheel. It can create that flywheel where you get more and more people sharing your stuff all the time, because they have a financial incentive to bring you more leads or to bring you more appointments. Every single client I get, I extend an offer to them to share what they're doing and get more people to come onto the platform. So that way I can pay them and I can help the clients that they bring on. And so that's been my downfall, is like, I am not asking enough people to share. Or you said negative, like that's been the only negative I've seen. Like if you're not asking people to do something to share what you've built, it makes it harder on you. Like every single raving fan that you bring into your customer base is somebody that you should absolutely give an incentive. Word of mouth is the greatest growth strategy in existence. And we say that because it's like, okay, I'm going to get hot leads from people that already know, like, and trust, that already have used the product and love it. All we're doing is like pouring gasoline on that fire, because we're giving them that upfront financial incentive to share it. And so I've not seen a negative. I've not reached out to one of my clients and said, hey, will you share this? And then be like, oh no, you jerk. Like, why would you ask me to do that? Like,
Yeah.
I've never had any of that stuff happen either. So it really is. It's an amazing strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I'm curious about is, have you, and maybe we're still too early, so to speak, but you obviously talked about you can provide those campaigns to the individuals that sign up to co-market with you. So you can provide them the emails, you can provide them the social posts. Have you found any social platform that takes more of a liking, so to speak, to this approach than another? Is LinkedIn stronger than Facebook, or Facebook stronger than Instagram?
It's really about the person that's going to share it. Like, you may have a bigger audience on YouTube. I'm just making this up. And I may have a bigger audience on TikTok. Like, I don't know. I'm making these things up. So I think we all know that content, it needs to be specifically curated for the platform it's going to be posted on. Sometimes
Mhm.
just posting the same thing to all platforms doesn't work. And so I think the biggest thing is to work with the person you're partnering with. And it's like, okay, which platform do you really have a following on? And then you tailor the content that gets made to the audience that they have. And
Mhm.
sometimes those people that have already built an audience, they know what their audience, they know what their customer base wants, or they know what their followers want. And so they're going to be able to say, okay, here's the message, I got it. And they go create something on their own. And so I've seen a mix, but it's more about the person that's doing the promoting than the platform, because the
Mhm.
person knows where their audience is.
Yep.
Email is different than Facebook, which is different than Instagram, which is different than LinkedIn. And so I think it's more about the partner. So you just got to stay close and work with the people that you're partnering with, and provide them with the assets they need to go out and share you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm just curious too, because I'm geeking out on the tech side of it now in my head. Does the platform right now, or are there plans in the future for the platform to provide kind of like a differential value score based on any of that, whether it's the person you're partnering with or whether it's the platform they're using or anything like that?
You mean like scoring their following or scoring their?
Yeah, like so you used the example earlier. You said Susan, and then I forget the second name that you used, but
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
you might get a higher return from one person than the
Got it,
other,
got it, got
right?
it.
Is there anything that's built into the system other than just you seeing, okay, I got 10 from, I'll just say Brian or whatever the name was you used, and I got 3 from Susan. Other than
Yeah,
just seeing those metrics, is there anything that if I'm looking at using co-marketing as like one of my core marketing strategies, right? If I'm doing paid advertising or I'm doing social, I'm looking at those differential values, right? I'm looking at
yeah,
if I do a paid ad on Facebook, it may only cost me this, but the average lifetime value of the customer that comes from that is this compared to if
yeah.
I pay more on, YouTube or LinkedIn, the average value might be this. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
We currently, the way that we track this is through conversion rates. So we look at clicks, and then everybody gets to set their own conversion objective. Is it leads? Is it appointments? Is it sales? And so we look at the clicks and we look at the conversion that you set, the objective you set, and then we show
mhm,
you the conversion rate.
okay.
And then future plans for us would be to show conversion tracking all the way through point of sale. So you know who your best performing partners are, and you can push more money into those people. And so
Yep.
now we kind of give you a roundabout way to look at that, but we are absolutely building stuff like that. The future for us from a roadmap standpoint looks like integrations with merchant service providers, so you can see everything all the way through point of sale, especially if it happens offline, and a lot of really cool data points like that. The other thing that we're doing is we're really leaning into AI. We've been working on which is your AI co-pilot to do co-marketing.
Mhm,
And Co will act as a co-marketing coach, as a co-marketing agency, as a co-marketing right hand. So you would be able to say, hey, Co, who are my top 5 best partners for this campaign? And then Co could go find that information for you and come back and say, these are your top 5. Or you could say, hey, there's this new person that just signed up for comarketing.com. They would be a great partner for you because their audience is this. And so it's
mhm,
coaching you through a lot of the marketing work that you're doing. And then you would be able to say, hey, Co, I just met this guy. I want to do a campaign with him. His name is Nate Tudis. Here's his email. Here's how much I'm going to pay him. And can you please set up a campaign? And then co-marketing or Co would be able to go perform those functions for you. So we're really doing some cool stuff with AI that's very, very close to being released, which I'm excited about.
yeah. Yeah, that right there sounds awesome, because that
Yeah.
the power of what we can do with AI is insane, as we know, but being able to build that to where it then helps you build out kind of that campaign, um, makes it super simple and
Mm-hmm.
awesome. So one more question on kind of the potential risk side of it, just to kind of suss out. I'm trying to think of like questions that people would have to try to poke holes. And the only other one that I can really think of at the moment is there any risk that I exhaust my audience, so to speak, or my platform that I'm using from a co-marketing perspective? And I get that the flywheel would probably help with that, but like paid ads, I can keep pushing ads. And if I come back next month and say, hey, I'm doing another webinar, I'm doing another campaign, I just pay the advertising again and they put it out in front of more people. With co-marketing, is it something that I kind of got to like cycle through who I'm working with to make sure I don't exhaust, one, the ask, but then two, the list that they potentially might have?
That's a great question. A lot of people don't realize that ads also have a shelf life.
Mhm.
And so Facebook is going to show your ads to a certain audience, and then you're going to see a frequency score whenever you're running ad campaigns, which is going to be 2x, 5x, 10x, 30x. And your audience eventually gets burnt out on the ad strategy.
Mhm.
They get burnt out on the webinar title, the challenge. They get burnt out on, seeing those same things over and over and over again. So it's something that's just kind of always happened. The flywheel is what I really lean to. Like, you want to constantly bringing in new partners who are going to expose you to new audiences. And that's how you can safely grow and scale what it is that you're doing. I have ran campaigns that are the same with the same people, a quarter apart, just months apart or something like that, and they've still been effective. But the flywheel has been the thing that I've looked to, because every new customer could expose me to a new audience.
Yep.
So that's what I'm always paying attention to. We have, one-off offers, one-off webinars, one-off challenges that we do, but then we have evergreen campaigns that we run. And I look for both. I look for something that I can always go back to my partners with and say, hey, this is new. Would you share it? That's the launch model, right? It's constantly putting something new in front of your people. But then I also look for the evergreen thing that I can post that gives me that thing that somebody could share every day if they wanted to. And yes, I think at the end of the day, we all have experienced audience burnout, where it's like, okay, I've heard the same thing over and over and over and over again. You got to pay attention to the content you're putting out, what type of content it is, what's the message of that. And it's got to be mixed up very strategically so that you don't burn an audience out, and instead you continually excite them about what's being shared.
Yep.
But actually, ads have a shelf life. They definitely always have. It's some of the more frustrating times in an entrepreneur's business when you figure out an ad strategy and it's working, and then it works for months, and then all of a sudden it stops. And that's where that exposure to new audiences solves that problem, or creation of new strategy, new launch, new message, new thing. And so you got to balance it. The flywheel is what constantly puts you in front of those new audiences that kind of safeguards from that.
Yeah. So if I'm understanding correctly, one of the things that's important if someone decides to go with co-marketing, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't at this point, but for those that do decide to go with that, one of the things that's important is that you don't necessarily just kind of rest on your laurels, for lack of better terminology, and go, oh, I found my 5 people that'll put my message in front of their audience, and I've found my groove. Because you risk the same thing with ads, where you're gonna burn that ad campaign out, so to speak. Okay. You're gonna burn that person's list out or whatever. And that's, to your point, the flywheel then allows you to just kind of continually grow more and more and more and expand that reach.
100%. I put out a webinar like 2 months ago, and I only worked with about 5 promoters to promote it, but then they grew my list by over 300 people. So what I'm saying is, like, okay, now I have 300 new potential partners, and I'm going to go have the conversations. They're going to expose me to 900 more people. You see what I'm saying? Like, you always want to be working on that. That's what I said a few minutes ago. Like, I don't want to confuse you. Like, this is work. You have to work to succeed with this strategy. Just like you got to work to create ads. Just like you got to work to do affiliates. Just like you got to work to do door knocking, direct mail, and all of these other strategies. It's all work. What I love about the work here is that my main job is just building really good relationships with people and helping them, and they help me, and I can pay them. And, if they see fit and they want me to promote something for them and it fits, I can, they can pay me, and we're all just like growing together, and we're supporting each other. But yeah, you can't rest on your laurels. You got to keep developing those relationships with more and more people. That's kind of the point for all of us, whether you're creating content, you're growing your email list, you're running ads. It's to build more relationships with a larger and larger and larger audience. And so this strategy is very similar in that regard, and one that you really have got to lean into. You want to keep pushing. What we do as a company is work really hard to push the people that you bring onto the platform. So that way, it's like, once you get a partner, then it's like, okay, now you got to work hard to get them to actually promote. And that's what a gap that we've really set our focus on filling. So that way, what is that old? It's the 80-20 rule. 20% of people do 80% of the work. And in my mind, I'm like, well, what if we could just get 80% of the people to do 80% of the work? And it's the reminders, it's the calls, it's the text, a lot of stuff that we're doing with AI that pushes people to actually promote whatever it is that they've been invited to promote.
Yeah. I love that. And so we talked about like the 4 A's. So you've got the attraction piece, and then you have the acquisition piece. So I'm curious, because obviously a referral is typically going to have a higher conversion rate from a sales perspective, right? So I'm just curious, what have you seen from paid advertising, organic social media and whatnot, the conversion to the sale itself, right?
Yeah.
Obviously from a co-marketing perspective, we're kind of focusing on the front end, paying for the lead, paying for the opt-in, what have you. But how have you seen the increase in the conversion on the back end there as well?
Every audience is a little bit different. The biggest thing that I've noticed is a decrease in my cost of acquisition. I've generated over 18,000 appointments for various offerings for my companies. And what I've always noticed is a really solid trend that I'm going to convert 30 to 40% of that audience. I've seen a very similar conversion rate using co-marketing. So the biggest differentiator is not necessarily did my conversion rate go up. With some partners, it does. And I give them more and more and more money. Absolutely. And the partners that I don't get a very good conversion rate in, I don't give them as much money.
Yeah.
That's advertising 101. But what I did notice is because I can control my costs, $5 a lead, $150 an appointment, I can just reverse engineer the math on my offers, and I can pretty much guarantee I'm going to get an 8 to 10x return. My challenge I just did a couple of weeks ago, 1,290% return. And so because I'm able to control the front end cost and I know the back end performance, now I know really kind of how to set things. When people convert more, I actually just pay them more. So that way they have a larger and larger financial incentive to share me. And the people that don't convert as well, I don't increase their budget, or I just keep them flat or neutral, or I cut them off. And so that's been the biggest thing for me is, yes, the lead quality has been better. Where like, if you convert 15% on a webinar, as an example, you have an excellent webinar. Well, I'm experiencing those results on the release of a new offer from like week 1, which is crazy. Like normally it would take you months to dial in a webinar. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to get better. This is going to continue to improve, because if I'm starting at a 15% conversion, like, oh crap, this is going to go. So
yeah,
that's what I'm paying attention to, is I'm looking at the conversion rate, and then I'm paying attention to the math. And so I'm really paying very close attention to my cost per lead. And that for me is what's been really helpful, because the cost per lead on Facebook right now compared to what I'm paying is literally almost 3 to 4x. And then to your point, the cold audience is not converting as high of a rate. So I'm paying a lower cost per lead. With some partners, their conversion rate's higher. With some, it's not. So I'm looking at the averages, and that's kind of that's the way that I'm looking at it on the campaigns that I'm currently running.
Yeah. Okay. So so it almost sounds like the answer is yes. You're actually, if I'm just reading into what you said, but it almost sounds like you're actually converting higher with co-marketing than you are versus ads. Technically not in the percentage, but in the speed to get to that percentage.
The speed and the cost are the two big things. Like I'm closing deals faster and my cost is lower. So in a roundabout way, yeah, my conversion is much higher, but it's not like you said, the percentage. I'm still closing 30 to 40% of my appointments, but my cost is like drastically lower.
Yeah. That just right there is amazing. So
other thing I guess I should point out is my appointment show up rate is higher. So when I pay for an appointment, as an example, through one of my partners, that show up rate is 80 to 90%. Whereas if I'm running ads, my show up rate is like 20 to 30% right now, which is awful.
Yeah.
And so the show up rate just on the appointments is much different. My webinar show up rate is a little higher too. So there's a lot of metrics that are better than cold strategies, 100%.
Yeah. And that just right there, if you do the math on show up rates, whether you're talking an appointment or you're talking a webinar, like the show up rate is one of the biggest numbers to try to increase to move all that forward. So those, to me, it's those little factors. And I'm glad you shared that, because in our conversations, we've talked about some of those things in a roundabout way, but being able to share that, I think, really highlights the importance of co-marketing itself and how effective that can be. So
100%.
So yeah, thank you, man, for coming on. One, thank you for actually creating co-marketing, because I think a lot of people are really going to benefit from it. I know me personally, just knowing the people that I know and the circles that I'm in and whatnot, there's a lot of challenge and struggle, especially when people start with a webinar or a challenge and they try to drive cold traffic. And to your point, they think they're going to be converting at 15 15+% right out of the gate, right? And doesn't happen, right? Or you get the opposite of they do like a beta launch. So they invite a bunch of friends and it's really close, tight knit referrals. It's people that are already pretty much 80 to 90% of the way through the sales cycle anyway. And they're just inviting them to their beta. They launch with a beta. They have really high conversion on the beta. And then they go to cold traffic and it's night and day difference, right? So
cold traffic is a different animal.
Yeah. And I've had clients that come to me and they're like, yeah, I did a beta and this is what we converted at. So this is what it's going to be with this. And I'm like, let's temper that down a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, love the concept, love the idea. I think like, just as I think about the strategy, obviously, I'm trying to think of the exact phrase that Dan Kennedy uses specifically, but it's generally speaking, but especially in marketing, the loneliest number is marketing is 1, right? So you're never going to want to have just one channel. It's not like co-marketing is going to solve all the challenges and all the problems. You're still going to want social. You still may want to supplement with paid ads at a certain point, right? But I think that point becomes much more palatable and much more easier to dial in when you've actually tested your messaging and all that kind of stuff ahead of time. And you've used co-marketing to help hone that in, because you can even figure out these influencers, these people, these co-marketers that I'm partnered with are bringing me the ideal audience. So what is it that's unique about them versus maybe some of my other co-marketers, and how does the message differ or resonate based on that? And then you can go back and use that to improve everything else.
100%.
So yeah, man. Thank you for hopping on for this first inaugural live.
Yeah.
We've been on for like 40 plus minutes already. So conversation went fast, but appreciate you sharing the information. If anybody wants to learn more about you or about co-marketing, where should they go? What should they do? What should their next steps be?
Just go to comarketing.com, create an account. It's free. And you can get in and play with it, join our community. Like you'll be directed to do all that stuff. But go to comarketing.com, check it out.
All right, awesome. So with that, I'm going to end the stream here. If you want to stay on for a little bit, we can catch up. But thank you everybody for paying attention, for watching, and learning a little bit about co-marketing and what that can do to help you attract more people to your business, to your offers, and really help you